Okay, so welcome everyone. I just went over some go-to training basics, but another thing that you might want to know is if at any time you can't hear us any longer or you can't see our screens or anything like that, let us know in the chat box just in case we can check to see if it's like an everyone problem. If it's not an everyone problem and it's just a you problem, then the best thing to do is to sign out and then to sign back in and kind of reset yourself essentially. That's kind of the best way to go about doing that. So today during the session, essentially what these lectures are for is to review, well, to answer any questions that you guys might have, because that's a great place for us to meet for an hour every week and answer any questions that you have, clarifications you need about something, whatever it may be. So kind of like online office hours kind of situation for myself and Professor Irisari. And then the other thing that this is for us to essentially go over the assignments for the week. So to let you know what our expectations are for those assignments, to show you examples, to answer questions about them, and that sort of thing. So we'll go over each week, we'll go over each one of that week's assignments. And I know for my students, I kind of tell you guys to not submit your assignment. Like, don't submit anything until you've watched the lecture. That's going to be really important, just so you can kind of see where what our expectations are before you submit it. Yeah, oh, hey, Zach. So yeah, Zach's asking, so I'm assuming that this is a slideshow and there will be audio along with it. Yeah, I'm going to be talking to you throughout. I'll be talking to you throughout it, myself and Professor Irisari, and we'll be asking questions and it'll be interactive, and each week is going to be different. But yeah, there's going to be the slideshow presentation. We do have the capability of doing video, but the video doesn't record, so that's why we don't do the video throughout. But if for any reason you can't attend to this live, we do post the recording within an hour or two, depending upon how the speed of everything, within an hour or two of it being live. So if you ever miss a part of it, come in a little bit late, or you can't attend it, you can always watch it back later on. Yeah, Zach, this is live right now. This is not a recording. Live. So anyway, yeah, so and it'll be very apparent when Professor Irisari and I really get going that this is live, because we mess up, we tell stories about weird things. So yeah, it just depends upon the like with any class, whether it's a face-to-face class or an online class, it all depends upon like the personality of the class and that sort of thing. So anyway, so let me get into our introductions. I'll introduce myself first, and then Professor Irisari will introduce herself as well in just a few minutes. So I'm Professor Jarvis. I have my email address up there. I would prefer that my students communicate with me over the platform. So send me, if you have a message to send me, questions, send me whatever, send it to me on the platform. It's the best way to communicate with me. And let me actually open this up really quick so I can show you guys as we're going through this, because we're going to be showing you different things on the platform as well. Highly recommend if you haven't checked it out already. This is me not being able to speak and navigate at the same time. Okay, here we go. So here's what the platform looks like, of course. Highly recommend if you haven't watched this Full Sail FSO training yet to do that. It's really, really helpful, just kind of giving you some guidance when it comes to navigating the platform. And when we say FSO, we mean the platform. So the Full Sail Online is essentially. And then this button up here, I'm not going to click it because you'll see a bunch of messages, but this right here, this message button, that's how I would like for you to communicate with me. And Professor Irisari, I think, is in agreement with that, for you guys to communicate with her in that way as well. So in comparison to email. And then we'll go back to that platform in just a few minutes. So that's who I am. I've been teaching here at Full Sail for 3.5 years. Yeah, 3.5 years. Or 3.25, something like that, over 3 years, teaching this course. And then I have also taught a pop culture and media course, which you guys might reach at like month 7, month 8, depending upon what your program is. And so I teach that course as well. And outside of Full Sail, I also teach at another state school here in Florida, and I teach like a face-to-face traditional public speaking class. So very similar to this class, but slightly different because we're face-to-face and presentations are done a different way and that sort of thing, but really similar. My background is in mass communication. Professor Irisari will talk about in a minute how she is more geared towards the interpersonal communication side of this side of what do I want to say, side of the research. And kind of my background here, I received my bachelor's degree in marketing, my master's degree in mass communication, both from the University of Central Florida. I'm also currently working on my doctorate in education, working on my dissertation right now. So almost done with that. And hopefully soon that'll be done. My background and my interests are in, like I said, in mass communication, but mass communication in the realm of like advertising, business promotion, marketing, that sort of thing. So looking at kind of mass media, news media, that sort of thing. So looking kind of at the big picture of how we receive information from different media outlets and different ways of communication. So I'm kind of looking at the big picture of it. Professor Irisari is looking at kind of a different side of it, kind of one-on-one communication and small group communication. So she'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But both of our specialties kind of go into this class really well because you're going to be doing both of those things. We're going to be talking a lot about mass communication and communicating to large groups and how you present yourself and personal branding and that sort of thing. But then we're also going to be talking about the other side of it, which is one-on-one communication, nonverbal communication, using your voice, manipulating your voice with communication and that sort of thing. So kind of covering both of it. So having us together with the courses is really helpful to kind of see both sides of it throughout the month that you guys are going to be here. So I will hand it over to Professor Irisari. She can introduce herself, and then we will get into this week's content.
Unmuted.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So hello. Those of you, I've been communicating with some of you in the chat box a little bit, going back and forth. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. I am Professor Irisari, and you can see my picture there on the screen. So half of you that go to the live go-to sessions are in Professor Jarvis's class, and then half of you are in my class. And while we give you feedback and grades individually based on the specific class section that you are in, we like to combine our sections for our live lectures so that you get both of our perspectives. As Professor Jarvis mentioned, we are a little bit on opposite sides of the communication field, the communication spectrum, but it actually works really well. We like to think that we complement each other. And I will also mention that we are friends in real life, but we are not in the same location when we record these live lectures. So it might interest you to know that we are in two completely different locations across the state of Florida while we record these. So occasionally you'll hear us talk over each other or mention how one of us is having really bad weather, or you might even be able to hear it in the background if it's just storming by Professor Jarvis or by me. So sometimes that'll come into play too with the class site, but hopefully you'll like getting the perspective of two professors instead of just one, and hopefully that makes the class a little bit more interesting as well. Just don't ask us to agree on if PCs or Macs are better. That can lead to some long conversations. Professor Jarvis, will you do me a favor and advance the slide for me, please? Okay, so a little bit about me. So I know the students that are officially in one of my class sites have seen some of this, but my background is in both English and communication. So my bachelor's degree is in English, and also in interpersonal and organizational communication. And then my master's degree, as Professor Jarvis mentioned, is specifically in interpersonal communication. So I'm very interested in the interactions between individuals and how they communicate with each other. I actually have a large large background in relationship communication, which is something that I spend a lot of time talking to my students in my face-to-face classes about, because it seems to be of interest to most of us. How can we communicate in relationships even better? But I also have a background in a variety of different areas. Some areas I've studied within the communication field and gone out and conducted my own research. I'm mostly a quantitative researcher. I like numbers. So I've looked at communication and restaurant tipping and compliance gaining. So what are some of the things restaurant servers could do in order to make even more money in tips? I've looked at Facebook and social dominance. It turns out that from the results of our study, if you appear to be more dominant on social media, then you are probably perceived to be a more dominant individual in the real world as well, which we think has some implications for a specific type of job hunting social media site. Does anyone think they know what it is? You can type it in the chat box. Let's see if anyone can guess. And while I let you guys guess, oh, yes, it's LinkedIn or Indeed. Actually, I guess we can expand that to Indeed now has more of a social media component as well. Absolutely. And I've also actually studied mail order brides. Yes, they still exist. I specifically looked at Russian women and how they communicate about themselves when looking for a husband. That was probably one of my more interesting studies as well. So I will also tell you that Professor Jarvis and I, while we cover a broad spectrum of the communication field itself is very broad, and it's what's known as a parasitic discipline. And that means that we like to, imagine the air quotes here, borrow ideas from other related fields. So you will probably notice some overlap in this class with your other classes, and that's a good thing. Hopefully that'll be an advantage to you going forward. But learning to be a really great, effective communicator, those skills translate to just about any field that I can think of. If you can think of a career field that you would like to go into where you never have to communicate with anyone ever at all, you can type it into the chat box, because I haven't heard of one yet. So definitely working on those communication skills. They can help us in our professional lives, in our school lives, and also our personal lives. So wide spectrum of information that we could potentially cover in any communication class. And this class is very cutting edge, and it focuses on creative presentations, just as the name says, but some very modern takes on presentations and what's going on in the real world now relating to technology and new ways of communicating and presenting ourselves. So Professor Jarvis, I will go ahead and hand it back over to you so you can advance the slide, and we would be very interested in meeting some of you.
Yes, so if anyone is interested in introducing themselves, you can raise your hand, and in the chat box we can, or not in the chat box, excuse me, but in the attendees box, we can see that you've raised your hand. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, we'd love to know, let us know what your name is, what program are you in, what future goals do you have in the industry you want to get into, and then something interesting about yourself. So Shannon Book, I'm gonna unmute you really quick.
Yeah.
Hey, you should be good to go. Yeah, we can hear you.
Awesome. So my name's Shannon Book. I'm in the audio production program. I'm retired military. I did Navy combat medicine for the Marine Corps for quite a long time. And I'm retired now, so I'm just a musician. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to cut the middleman of audio production out of my music career. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, awesome. And something interesting about yourself?
I like people.
Okay. Okay, awesome. That will bode really well for you in this class, actually. Well, for all your classes, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for sharing. Okay, let's see. And if you're not brave like Shannon and you don't want to speak out loud with everyone, you can always type it into the chat box and you can type out your introduction into the chat box if you would like. Zach, I'm going to come over to you. Let me see if I can. Okay, you should be good to go.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, cool. Okay, so my name is Zachariah Clark. The program that I'm in is game design. I've been interested in video games ever since I was 5 years old when I picked up a Super Nintendo controller. So from there I decided that down the road I'd want to get into what it is to build and I guess produce a video game. I want to say that my future goals are they're a little hazy at the moment, but I but I really want to try to start up my own game engine at the end of it all.
Okay.
And then I guess something interesting about me is well, on top of what I'm doing, you know, for classes, is I'm a parent of a 2-year-old son by the name of Ethan. I'm also a video game streamer on Twitch as well as YouTube as well. So I try to make a lot of time for everything in my life, including my son. So if anybody ever is curious about what I play for video games, just text me in the chat box and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can also let me go back over here to our trusty thing right here. If you go to the Getting Started page and then you go down to the community discussion board, that's also a place that all of you students can communicate with one another, kind of like an open, casual discussion board that is never graded or anything. It's just something that you can participate in throughout the month as well. So if you ever want to like share your Twitch handle or your YouTube channel or anything like that, you can always do that there as well. And it's a great place for you guys to communicate.
Especially Discord too. It's a wonderful place. I talk with the Armada team a lot.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, thank you so much, Zach, for sharing with us.
Hey, nice meeting you too, Ms. Jarvis.
Thanks. Okay, okay, Terrence, I'm coming up to you. Let's see. Terrence, I unmuted you. I'm just waiting for your microphone to turn green.
You guys can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Well, my name is Terrence Louine. My program that I'm in is film, and one of my future goals are to actually make it on the screen and actually win an Emmy for Best Actor or get nominated for an Oscar for Best Directed Movie, which is kind of big. It's like a big step, but I mean, I think Full Sail can actually open that route for me in a way. And something interesting about me, I paint. I recently started painting.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing it. Yeah, that is a really big goal, but it's good to have that big goal because, you know, all the little goals that you need to reach that are going to be amazing milestones as well. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I just had like everyone raise their hand. Usually, Professor Irisari and I need to like pull the information out of you, but I like this. I like this. Okay, so I'm gonna go from the bottom to the top. So Robert, I'm coming to you. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Robert Cost, I'm coming to you to unmute you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, my name is Robert Cost. I'm signed for creative writing for entertainment. My future goal is to see my work on a big screen. Just see everything come to life and just know I'm behind that. Something interesting about me, I actually am a published author. I have like a 10-book deal. I have like 7 books published already, but unfortunately I got signed before I knew anything about the business, and I didn't know there are a lot of bad ends on the business. Some publishers will just sign you just because they're they'll edit your book horribly. They just feel like if they have a good cover, your book is going to sell and they're going to make their money back. And it kind of, tarnishes your name. I just learned everything the hard way because I was so eager to get my work out there. So now I'm just basically just trying to rebuild my name, my brand, start from the bottom up. And probably make the New York Times bestseller list. I made the Amazon bestsellers list, but New York Times is where it's at.
Okay, and what genre do you write in?
I write fiction.
Okay.
Well, yeah, fiction.
Okay. Awesome, Robert. Thank you so much for sharing.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, Excel, I'm coming up to you.
Hello?
Yep, you're good to go.
All right, yes, ma'am. My name is Excel Luna. I'm in the digital cinematography program. Future goals, honestly, is just to make a feature-length film, either independently or with the studio. It doesn't really matter. I just want to make a working body of art or something, And I guess something interesting is that I play 5 different instruments, and I think that's pretty cool. So.
Okay, yeah, that is really cool. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much for sharing with us. Okay, and then Bruce, I'm coming up to you. Okay, Bruce, you should be good to go.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, hey, my name is Bruce Bracken. The program I'm into right now is game development. As far as future goals, I'm looking to start working, or I guess eventually work for one of the larger gaming businesses. Activision Blizzard, Giant Software, Ubisoft, Bethesda Studios. And essentially help with the creation of a game being made in some way or another. Something interesting about me is I have a twin sister who's in PA school in Kentucky right now, I guess.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, let's see. Did anyone else? No one else raised that. Almost everyone introduced themselves, so that's awesome. And then let's see what's happening in the chat box. Okay, some stuff happening in the chat box. Awesome. So I'm glad that those of you that introduced yourselves, you all came from very different programs and backgrounds, so that's really awesome. One thing that I like to make really clear in this course is a lot of students come into the course thinking, why do I have to take this class? This class is dumb. Like, I don't need this class. I just want to get into gaming or film, cinematography or whatever it may be. I just want to get into that. That's what I'm here for. And so a lot of students get frustrated because they have to take these, as we call them, general education classes. But the thing is like Professor Irisari was saying earlier, I don't care what profession you're going into. I was trying when Professor Irisari asked this earlier, I was trying to think of one so I could debunk ourselves, but I can't think of and never present yourself or present an idea to one or more people. I don't think that exists. And so I know a lot of students come into this thinking that when they get into the position in their industry that they want to get into, they're just going to be in their own creative space and be able to just create whatever they want without having to present their ideas or without having to do a formal presentation. And that's really not the case, because I think that almost every position that I've had, other than I'm trying to think of a position that I've had that I didn't have to do this. Can't think of one actually, where I didn't have to sell a product or present myself or sell an idea to someone, pitch an idea to someone, that sort of thing. So all of those things are skills that you're going to use throughout your professional career and throughout your academic career as well, because like I said, I teach the pop culture and media class, and you do have to make presentations in that class and other classes throughout the coursework that you're going to be doing. So this class is going to help you with your full sail work as well as your professional work outside of graduation, essentially. So thinking about that's the setting that up for talking about expectations and thinking about what we expect out of you guys and what you can expect out of us and that sort of thing is kind of laying that out first of all, and just knowing that that's the purpose of you guys being here, is thinking about communication, thinking about presentations. That's what we're here to teach you all. But thinking about also kind of the professionalism behind this and that sort of thing is really important. I'm sure that you have, I'm sure that you guys have thought or talked to your student liaisons about your professionalism grade, your GPS grade, and that sort of thing. Professionalism also goes into this course as well, but kind of thinking about it on a bigger scale of expectations. And just, just by being here right now, you guys are, checking off one of those expectations of making sure that you're staying up to date with all the communication in the course, whether it be the lectures, watching them later as a recording, staying up to date with your the communication that you get in the platform. So this bubble right here, making sure that you're always double checking that. Another place that you want to check often is the announcements page. So making sure that you're checking the announcements and seeing, what's going on, who's communicating with us, and that sort of thing. So that's really important. And just double checking, and checking that. I recommend, Professor Irisari and I check the platform multiple times a day, but check it once a day. Just make sure that you are staying up to date with anything new that's happening. And so communicate, like I'm talking about, communication is really important. If for any reason you guys, something happens in your life where that's going to keep you from being able to do your schoolwork or distract you from it, that sort of thing, communicate with that with your instructor. Let either myself or Professor Irisari know what's going on in your life, so then we can do something about it. There's nothing worse than getting to like week 3 or week 4 and being like, I didn't have internet for 3 weeks, and so I wasn't able to do any of my work, or I was in the hospital, or whatever it may be. So you want to keep that in mind, that you want to communicate with us as early as possible for whatever issues that you're having throughout. And hopefully that never pops up, but just in case it does, you want to you want to be able to let us know what's happening, what's going on. So just a couple other like little housekeeping stuff, as we like to call it. So making sure that you're maintaining college level writing standards throughout the month, and that goes with any form of communication in the course. So it could be in writing a message, it could be on the discussion board, it could be in your assignments, of course. Making sure that you have college level writing standards and that you're meeting that bar. And what we're looking for with that is just everything you learned in grade school: punctuation, capitalization, sentence structure. If you're writing a message, make sure that there is a greeting and a salutation and proper sentence structure and stuff like that. Professor Irisari and I hate getting those emails that are like, hey, when is this assignment due? And then that's it. Like, you want to maintain the college level writing standards throughout and maintain that professionalism throughout as well. I feel like I'm sounding like my parents, but my parents always hated when we would be like, hey dad, what's for dinner, or whatever, and he, the hay's for horses kind of situation, right? Maybe your parents say something like that, but you want to make sure that the way that you communicate via like text messaging and stuff like that, the shorthand, the slang, that sort of thing, that stays in that realm of like text messaging and communicating with in a casual way. But then when you're coming onto the platform in this course, you're kind of stepping up your communication to meet those standards. When it comes to the chat box and stuff like that within this lecture, that's okay. I don't care how typing shorthand and stuff like that in the chat box, no problem whatsoever. But with assignments and communication with myself or Professor Irisari, you want to step that up a little bit. That just it essentially sets the habit of getting into those professional communications and then carrying that throughout your coursework, carrying that throughout your professional life. All those sorts of things is really, really important. So kind of moving on, talking about professionalism. Professionalism, of course, is part of your GP. I just keep wanting to say GPA, GPS grade, but also just, like I said, setting those habits now, super important, because you never know who you're going to run into. You never know who your instructor is going to be, or who other people in the course are going to be. As I'm kind of like, navigating the chat box, there's a lot of like talent happening. You guys have accomplished a lot in this class just so far, personal accomplishments that you guys have all had. So you never know who you're going to run into and who you could potentially network with or work with in the future. So it's important to kind of maintain a professional tone now and maintain that throughout, because keep this in mind, all of the instructors at Full Sail have had experience working in the industry, or they do currently work in the industry. So they could be looking for someone to work on a project with them, or have something available that you could work on. And if you make that professional impression right up front, you might be that person that they're looking for. Really important. Some other housekeeping stuff when it comes to things that'll help you be successful in the course is lynda.com. So lynda.com is like, it's like if YouTube was only full of professional tutorials. That's essentially what lynda.com is. And you, with your Full Sail credentials, you have access to everything on lynda.com for free. So let's say you want to learn how to use Photoshop, or learn how to edit video, or learn how to, as in this course, create a slideshow and add an audio recording, an audio narration to it. You will have to do that in this course. So that's going to be important to, if you're a little rusty with those skills or haven't developed those skills yet, you want to check out lynda.com for all of those different tutorials. One thing I do want to mention now before I forget to do it, which I'll remind myself of this again later on, but something you want to think about is in this course, you're going to have to create 2 different audio-visual presentations that include both visuals in like a slideshow format and audio. So it's important that you have access to a microphone in some way, shape, or form. So it could be the microphone on your cell phone or on your computer, on your laptop, on your tablet, whatever it may be. And then you also have access to some sort of software that creates slideshows and creates like Word documents. So through Full Sail, you do have access to that, the Office 365, and I'll show you in a minute where you can find that on the platform. So you have access to that for free, but you can use other stuff that you're familiar with too, like Google Slides, Google Docs. If you have a Mac, it's, you know, Pages and Keynote and that sort of thing. PowerPoint, Word document, that sort of thing. So make sure that you have access to that, or make sure you do have access to it, but make sure you can access it is essentially what I want to say for that one. Our textbooks for this month are Resonate and Slideology. So these textbooks they weren't written for students, they were actually written for business professionals. So let me navigate to that really quick so I can show you. So in the 1.2 learning activity, which the learning activities always involve textbook reading. So you will find some links here so you can access the textbooks if you haven't done that already. All of your textbooks for Full Sail are included in it's kind of like an all-inclusive with your tuition and stuff like that. So you'll find the digital copies of those textbooks here that you can access for free through Safari Books. So that's where you can access those. And then where I think, let me see. Yes, so this is what I was talking about before. To access Office 365, so you can get access to PowerPoint, Excel, Word, and OneNote. I think those are the 4 that you have access to. You can access that here, and that's in the 1.4 assignment. So you can access that on your own if you're needing to navigate that and download those apps there. Okay, and I'm gonna put this over here because we're gonna access it pretty soon anyway. So yeah, so these books are written for business professionals and teaching them how to give presentations. So all of you are going to benefit from that because essentially all of you are going to be getting into business in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter if you're in game design, cinematography, recording music, whatever it may be. You're going to have some sort of business interaction later on in life. So this is going to be it's kind of the lens that we look at presentations through. And Resonate kind of covers the content of a presentation. Slideology covers the visual part of a presentation. So when you put those 2 together, they make for a really good, excuse me, a really good manual for creating a really effective presentation. And the way that we're going to be talking about presentations in this class is through storytelling. So you'll hear us kind of talk about that throughout, elements of storytelling, the hero's journey, that sort of thing. You'll get into that more as you are doing the textbook reading and that sort of thing. So it'll be really important to kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking about presentations, that it's not some like, we think about presentations and speeches and public speaking as like some like old guy standing behind a podium reading from a prompter or reading from a stack of papers in front of him or something along those lines, and that's like this old stuffy way of thinking about presentations. But that's not the way that we think about presentations in this course. Presentations in this course, we think about it through storytelling, through conversational communication, just like you were talking to a friend, um, and expressing yourself and finding a way to express yourself both visually and visually, verbally, and non-verbally. So through all those ways, it's really important to kind of think about presentations through that lens. So we'll kind of transition now just a little bit, all that housekeeping stuff. And like I said, the other thing too is if you haven't watched this Full Sail online training, make sure that you take a few minutes to do that, because it can be really helpful, especially you're going to be navigating the platform for the next 24, 23, 18, however long your program is, those number of months. So it'll be good to be really, really proficient with the platform to get through that. So here's what this week looks like. Each week you'll see kind of a weekly breakdown in this way. So like I mentioned earlier, you have your, if you click on week 1, you have your 1.1 go-to training. So that's what we're doing today. So once you've watched this, you've attended it live or you've watched it, you can click that one as done as complete. The 1.2 learning activity, that's the first main assignment for this week. So you have these chapters that you need to read here out of the Resonate book. And then once you've read those, you can come on down here and click, mark that as complete, and then you'll be good to go. Excuse me. Next, you'll have your 1.3 presentation history assignment, which Professor Irisari is going to go over in a little bit more detail in just a minute. She'll cover kind of the ins and outs of that, due dates and that sort of thing. So that's the second assignment that you have for this week. And then finally, we have your 1.4 professional presentation analysis assignment that we will go over shortly as well. So keep in mind, you have all of your due dates are listed over here on the right-hand side. So you'll hear us say this over and over again when it comes to due dates. Most of your due dates are going to be Sundays at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's really important to know, because all of your due dates are set for Orlando time, right? So if you're in a different time zone, you just want to make those adjustments, make those mental adjustments for yourself so you know when your stuff is going to be due. The only exception to that is for the discussion boards. Discussion boards have 2 different due dates. You have a due date for your initial post, and then you have a due date for your peer replies. So those are the only ones that that's the only one that has 2 separate due dates, but the rest of them have, single due dates, which is usually Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll always say that, we'll always reiterate that over and over again, just as a reminder, so you know when that due date is, both the date and the time of it as well. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to Professor Irisari. She's going to go over the discussion board, and we will, let me navigate this over here. Let me move this over, and then Professor Irisari, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so for our first discussion assignment this week, you will be posting by tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just as Professor Jarvis said. We say it over and over again. You will be posting 3 to 5 college level paragraphs describing your own personal history with public speaking, and to expand that a little larger, with presentations in general. Many of you will find that this class focuses on slightly different types of presentations than those you might have had experience with in the past, but you're going to tell us what some of those experiences were. Did you experience any anxiety over getting up in front of a room full of people and having to speak in front of them? What did you like about it? What did you dislike about it? But overall, your initial post needs to be 3 to 5 college level paragraphs to start with, where you go over in really thorough detail your experience with presentations. Now, Professor Jarvis is pulling up the official assignment submission page. As you can see, she's scrolling through it a little bit, and if you click down, or if she clicks there, where you can see it's going to, she has pulled up the PDF document that has the instructions. So the instructions go over much more specific questions than the ones we just left on the screen, such as describe your level of comfort delivering presentations, discuss a public speaking experience you remember, was it good, was it bad, and so forth. So this is more specific. It also covers what would you like to learn from the class and what do you think that you need to improve upon. Unlike any other public speaking class you may have taken before, in this class you're not necessarily getting up in front of a room full of people to give a speech. That would be very unlikely for this course. You are instead creating digital presentations. So make sure that you post that initial post to this discussion board by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we want you to reply to at least 3 of your classmates in about 1 college level paragraph each. So we are asking that you have some substantial responses to the initial post created by your classmates, because your classmates want to interact with you. You want to get to know each other throughout the class site, and so we are asking for at least 1 college level paragraph for each of 3 responses, and those responses will then be due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, along with your other homework assignments this week. All right, Professor Jarvis, do you want to advance to the next assignment, the 1.4? While she's pulling that up here, I will start to talk to you about this 1.4 professional presentation analysis assignment. So this is your first, what I would say your first major assignment due this week, Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Professor Jarvis is showing you there how you navigate to find the instructions. So for this assignment, it is the 1.4 professional presentation analysis assignment, but we also call this assignment the TED Talk analysis assignment, because you will be choosing 3 different TED Talks, any 3 official TED Talks that you would like to choose on a wide variety of different topics and subjects to use for this assignment. And you can find these on the official TED Talk website, but they also share many of these officially through YouTube as well, so you can access them either place. So what you will do is you will first choose your 3 TED Talks, watch the 3 TED Talks, and then you are going to write 1 analysis for each of the 3 TED Talks, answering the questions that you can see listed on the screen in front of you. Why was this presentation powerful and moving? What did you like about this presentation? What made it relatable? What can the speaker improve upon, etc. Make sure you answer all of the questions in an analysis for each TED Talk. Then you are going to be choosing at least 1 visual to go along with each of the 3 analyses. So 3 analyses and then at least 3 pictures to go along with these TED Talks. These pictures can be screenshots from the TED Talks, or they can be other images that you draw in from other sources that relate to the TED Talks that you have chosen. After that, Professor Jarvis, will you scroll down for me a little bit to the second page of the instructions? So the third part of this assignment is to create 1 list of 10 qualities, techniques, or presentation skills that made the presentations you watched inspiring, captivating, creative, and effective. So what 10 qualities did you really notice from these 3 speakers? And tell us what the qualities are, define the qualities that you have chosen, and then tell us which of the speakers enacted these qualities and how they did it. So to recap, that is choosing 3 TED Talks, writing 3 analyses, 1 for each of the 3 TED Talks, including at least 1 visual to go along with each of the 3 TED Talks, so at least 3 visuals, and then finally you will conclude by creating a list of 10 qualities of effective speaking. So there's only 1 list of 10 to accompany all 3 TED Talks. So maybe one of the speakers was really good at storytelling and another speaker was really good at incorporating effective humor. Professor Jarvis, did you want to go ahead and pull up an example of one of these presentations so we can show them what it looks like? And while she is doing that, I will say that these TED Talk analyses, these assignments can be created in Word, like the example you're seeing on the screen. You see one visual of the speaker. You see a link there showing you which TED Talk this is from, and then an analysis of the TED Talk. And then Professor Jarvis is going to scroll down. You can see the second part of the analyses. Then you could see the pictures from the second and third TED Talks with the second and third analyses. And then at the end, you see the one list of 10 qualities that indicates which of the speakers chosen from the 3 TED Talks implemented the strategies that have been chosen effectively. Many students create this assignment in a Word document. Many other students create this assignment in PowerPoint. That's acceptable. And the one that you see on the screen now was either created in PowerPoint or in Adobe Spark. I'm not 100% sure for this one. I think it was created in PowerPoint. So you can see the visuals and you can see the written analyses from this second example now that we're looking at of this TED Talk assignment. And you can see that your TED Talks can be on such a wide variety of topics. And then you can see now an example of the 10 qualities and how this student chose different qualities from all 3 of their TED Talks, and then gave a description and demonstrated how each speaker used these 10 qualities.
I'm trying to, I have just as another example here, I've got, this one was definitely done in PowerPoint, and this is just another way of just visually doing it and formatting it and that sort of thing. So they have their 3, and then they have their skills listed out as like confidence, empathy, relatability, and then they do an explanation as to why are those qualities important in a presentation. So the explanation there is important.
Yes, and one of the neat things about Full Sail, you can choose whatever program that you would like to complete this assignment, as long as you meet the assignment requirements. Professor Jarvis and I are also huge fans of a free program called Adobe Spark. It's not just free for students, but using that program, you just go to if you type into Google Adobe Spark and you go to the Adobe Spark website, you can create a free account. Doesn't have to be through your student email, and you can create some really great visual presentations that way as well. So if you want to start early learning a new program that you can use throughout the rest of the semester for some of the bigger assignments where you're creating video type assignments, Adobe Spark would be a great suggestion for a program to start learning now. And we are also in no way affiliated with Adobe Spark. We just think it's such a great tool for our students. We also want to encourage you, if you have any questions about this assignment so far, to go ahead and type those into the chat box, because we are happy to answer your questions about the assignment while we are here live.
Okay, I'm having some technical difficulties with trying to close the, you can, on the screen right now, you can see, well, no, you can't because I froze it, hold on. For some reason, when I make the PDF full screen on my second monitor, I can't get out of it. For some reason, it like locks me in there, and I press escape, and for some reason, it just won't let me escape out of it. I don't know why. I feel like I'm like in Adobe prison or something. It's like ridiculous. But anyway, that's just me like struggling with technical difficulties. Totally beside the point. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, put them into the chat box, or you can raise your hand and you can ask them live. But we're gonna wrap up with questions and we'll have answers for you. But before we do that, just 1 second before we do that, I want to talk to you guys about, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but I want to talk to you guys about, excuse me, the final presentation, because we keep talking about presentations and the goals of the course and that sort of thing, but it's important to kind of see like where you're going, right? So kind of knowing what the goal at the end of this is really important. And I'm going to show you, Professor Irisari and I both send this out as, hey, here's a playlist of final presentations, like you should take a look at them, that sort of thing. And they're really important to take a look at because it kind of shows you like what we're going to be aiming for at the end of the class. And essentially what we're aiming for is a 3 to 4 minute audio-visual presentation where you are going to be pitching yourself to your future employer. Like, hey, hey, Bethesda Studios, I want you to hire me for the game design position you currently have available. Here's why you should hire me, and here's my vision that I have for the company, or the vision that I have for a game I want to work on, that sort of thing. So it's important to kind of check out some of these videos that we have here on this, excuse me, on this playlist to kind of see like, okay, this is what I'm aiming for in the future. And that's going to be important to kind of think about as you're moving through the course, kind of knowing what that final goal is essentially.
And also keep in mind that the final projects on this list, these students submitted a first draft, a presentation plan, just as you will be doing, and they received feedback every step along the way. We are here for you. We're going to give you really extensive, detailed feedback to help you create these really awesome final presentations. So when you take a look at those projects, don't get intimidated. They are there for inspiration, but we are going to slowly step you up to those projects.
Yes. And those, yeah, those go through a revision process and a planning process and all of those sorts of things. So this week, essentially the goal is to look at professional presentations and see how they execute them. Next week, we look at creating a plan for your presentation. Week 3, you actually create a rough draft. And then week 4, you revise your rough draft and submit it as a final draft. So we go through a planning process, a revision process, and then the final presentation. So we build up to it. So yeah, it happens eventually. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, put them into the chat box, or you can raise your hand and we will unmute you and you can ask it that way. And we'd be happy to help you out. So I've got a hand, where are we at? Okay, so Zach, I'm gonna come down to you and I'll unmute you. Okay, you should be good to go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. So I noticed the selection of videos there from YouTube.
Yes.
When we go to make our final presentation, what will it be using YouTube to record ourselves?
It depends. A lot of students choose YouTube or choose to post their video to YouTube because a lot of students create files that are really big and sometimes they have a little bit of an issue uploading them to the platform. It's not a requirement, but depending upon, essentially we just want you to submit it as a video file. Most students submit it as an MP4 file. Some students choose to upload it to YouTube and then submit the URL. And then some students choose to use like an Adobe Spark kind of program and then submit a URL for the presentation.
Yeah, because the thing I was wondering is what programs that because I'm not really used to using YouTube to record stuff like that, except my games.
Yeah. So
how would I go?
Students aren't using YouTube to record; they're just using it to upload the video and then.
Oh, okay. So you make the video on like the mobile device, and then.
Yeah, so most students are using Adobe Spark, which we'll talk about next week. They're using Adobe Spark. They're using like PowerPoint or Google Slides or one of those, and then choosing the option to record that or doing like a screen recording of it. And then some students are using like iMovie or other video editing software. So there's a lot of different options depending upon what you have access to.
All right, so thank you for simplifying that for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for the question. I'm sure others had that question as well, absolutely. Let's see. Yes, if you submitted an assignment prior to this lecture and you're like, oh crap, I didn't do that right or whatever, you can always resubmit it. We always look at the most recent submission. So we won't look at the previous submission, we'll look at your most recent one. If it has to do with the discussion board, you can't delete you can't delete a post, but you can edit a post. So let's say your post was only like a couple sentences long and you're like, oh no, I need to add more content to it. You can go in and edit that post, but you can't delete it and like redo it. Just go in and edit it. That's totally fine. Let's see. I'm just checking for hands in the attendance or in that box. Okay.
Shannon, your question is directed at me, Professor Irisari. You're asking, will we be able to access this chat later? Great question. So one of the reasons that Professor Jarvis and I read your questions out loud when we answer them is because in the recorded video that many of the students who are unable to attend live will be watching back later, you will not see or be able to access the chat box. So for that reason, we read your questions out loud so that the students who watch the videos back later can hear the questions even though they will not be able to see the chat box. So if anything appears in the chat box that you are interested in, it's a good idea to save it while you are in the live session because sometimes not all of the questions get read out loud if we have a lot of questions and a lot of content to cover. But also keep in mind, and this is just a great FYI to all of our students, both those attending the lecture live and then also the students who will watch this lecture later, that in our announcements, that is usually where we will send out the different links and documents that we go over during the live lecture. So we will be sending out to all of you this list of excellent final presentations. We will send out a variety of other tips, tricks, links, and resources through those announcements. So it is absolutely essential that all of you turn on your notifications through the course, that you're notified every time you receive an announcement from Professor Jarvis or myself so that you can pay really close attention to those announcements because they are jam-packed full of information for all of you that relate to the work we're doing in a given week. So that's a great question for us, Shannon. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, and it's good to know as well that Professor Irisari and I can see who has read the messages and who's read the announcements. So if you come at us with a question like, hey, Professor Irisari, where can I find that YouTube link with all of the final presentations? And we go look on the announcement and we're like, oh, that person hasn't read the announcement yet. We'll be like, hey, it's in the announcement or whatever. So just keep that in mind that we know who's reading that stuff and who's not.
Yes, especially with an online course because we only meet live once a week.
Yeah.
It is especially important that you are getting all of the information that we send out through the platform. And the main way we do that is through the announcements. So any kind of updates, notifications, if we're about to be hit by a hurricane and something happens, that will go out through the announcements as well, like it did just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and we also in the follow-up message we'll send out, I don't know if you said this earlier, but send out examples of the TED Talk presentation so you can, we went over them in the chat, but you'll have them so you can look at them yourselves as well. Okay, a couple more minutes. If you guys have any questions, we can answer those for you. If you don't have any questions, you feel like you're good to go, you are totally free to sign off, no worries. But if you want to hang out and ask the question, that's cool too. Oh, we've got a hand. There is a hand. Terrence, let's just a second. Let me, there we go. Okay, Terrence, you're unmuted, just waiting. There you go.
I was had a question mostly about the final presentation.
Sure.
So when we're fully done with the presentation, we submit it on the FSO, or because I heard you guys talking about the YouTube, so I was confused about that also.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you will submit it through the FSO, just like you will with all of your other assignments. But the thing that we were saying is some students choose to upload it to YouTube first and then submit their YouTube URL as their assignment, so then we can just go to YouTube and watch it, because
Okay.
some students files are really big, and it's easier to upload a big file to YouTube as opposed to the platform.
Okay. And also you said, because I'm more aware, so I know how to use the platforms to make presentations. And you said Adobe, what was it, Adobe Stock?
Adobe Spark.
Adobe
Yeah.
Spark. Okay. So we can use that to make the presentations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And we're going to go over Adobe Spark a little bit more in detail next class or next week. But if you want to, just check out Adobe Spark, it's free for everyone to use and log in and that sort of thing. It's not connected to your school stuff, so you'll have to make you'll have to do like a new registration. But if you want to go in here and kind of check it out ahead of time, you have some free time or whatever, it's a great resource to use, especially if you're on a mobile device.
Okay. Is it also similar to PowerPoint, like Microsoft?
Yes. So
Like the tools.
yeah. So while we're in here, I'll show you just a quick preview of it. As I log in, let's see. So for example, I'm just going to edit one of these projects just so you can see what the platform looks like. Yep, see, you kind of have your slides down here. You can add video, text, photos. You can record right here, so you can record audio with this little button down here. You can add background music. You can change like the theme and stuff like that. And then when you are done with it, you can share it as a URL. So it's got most of the functionalities of like a PowerPoint or a Keynote, that sort of thing.
You also said something about audio. When
Yes.
we're presenting, we have to add an audio.
Yes.
Okay.
So students do that in many different ways. So depending upon what device that you're using, some students like to record audio as like a voice memo on their cell phone, and then you can add that to a presentation like this, because you can get the Adobe Spark app, and you can either record directly into the app, or you can record on.
There's an app.
Oh yeah, or you can record, like for example, I have an iPhone, so I could record it as a voice memo and then add a voice memo to Adobe Spark or add it to PowerPoint or whatever software I wanted to use.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I need to have.
If we're talking right now, you have the capabilities of recording your audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Some students get intimidated by that, and I'm just like, hey, what device are you on right now? Whatever device you're on now is how you can record, unless you're on like a hardline, a hardline telephone. Obviously, you can't record that way, but you can, if you're on a device like this, you can absolutely record.
Yeah, my MacBook Pro has a mic in it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I can just connect my headphones and record it off there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're using a MacBook Pro, you might even want to, I don't know if you've explored iMovie at all, but I really like iMovie on Mac. And that's a great way to create the video presentations, because you're just dragging and dropping stuff. So it's really easy.
It's very easy.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you for your questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, cool. So let me go back into the chat. Let me see. Oh, Professor Irisari is all over the chat box. Awesome. I'm glad that you got this one about transfer credits and stuff like that. Stuff I'm not aware of. Okay. So yeah, just one more minute of questions if you guys have any kind of last lingering questions. I know we went a little bit beyond with showing you like Adobe Spark and that sort of thing. Don't freak out like you're not creating a video this week. That's for next week we'll start that process. This week, no videos involved. No audio recording this week. Just Professor Irisari and I are recording our voices.
Okay, I have a question that was sent directly to me, so I'm going to go ahead and not read the student's name out loud. It says, hi, I just wondered, with the analysis for the 3 TED Talk videos, is it possible to send I'm sorry, that student, I think I'm going to need you to clarify your question just a little bit. I'm not sure what you mean by something you recently sent. I'm a little unclear. If you can please update me on your question. But I
Yeah,
will
go ahead. Go ahead.
I will tell all of you that the TED Talk analysis assignment should just be one file. Whether it's a Word document file or a PowerPoint file, it should just be one file that you're uploading. So don't put each aspect of the assignment into a different file, because that's a lot of files that we then have to download. So it really should just be one file.
Yep. And if you ever during these sessions, if you ever just want to send myself a message or send Professor Irisari a message or send something that only we can see, you can, in the chat box, if you click on the two, there's like a little drop down, you can do to organizers only. And then we can only see the message. So like, for example, Professor Irisari just got a message in that way, and we'll keep it anonymous, because if we know that you sent it that way, it probably means that you don't want everyone to see that you asked that question. So we'll just keep it anonymous. But then everyone benefits from the question, because usually if you have that question, other people do as well.
Absolutely.
Well, they might be talking about something that they submitted in a previous semester or a previous month. I don't know. We have a hand up. Let's see. Kenya. Kenya, I'm coming to you to unmute you really quick. Okay. Should be good to go. Kenya, you're there? Yeah, Azaria, we have had asking, have we ever had online students switch to campus? Absolutely. A lot of students choose to do their gen eds online and then switch to campus when they get into their like actual program. That's what a lot of students do. So they do the first 4 or 5 months online, and then they do the rest of their program on campus. Okay. So Kenya's not on audio. Okay. I highly recommend going on campus. I mean, campus for me, unless you have, yeah, well, unless you have the means to like relocate and all that fun stuff, campus is the way to go, because you have access to like everything. And then you have access to the community and all that stuff. Not to make those of you that are doing it remotely feel bad or anything, but campus is the way to go. I don't think it affects, I mean, don't hold me to this, but I don't think that it affects your tuition at all. Just to me, you know, cost of living might be a little bit different, but other than that, I think tuition stays the same.
And it's a fun area, the area the school's in. It's built up a lot in recent years. There's lots of stuff going on in that area, and it's right by another huge university. So there are tons of students in that area.
Yeah. Okay, so Terrence is taking his first 2 months online and then relocating. That's awesome. Yeah, Azaria, I don't know where you live now, but you know, Orlando's a cool city to live in. Oh, Atlanta. Well, I don't know. Maybe you like Atlanta better. I don't know.
Don't try to talk
I
out
don't,
of it.
I don't know. I'm like, maybe not. Weather's a little bit cooler in Atlanta, not as hot. Okay, so Kenya is back on. Kenya, are you there? Hello? No. Yes? Hello? Hey, Kenya, you're there? Okay, I don't know what's happening with that. Let me try it one more time, Kenya, to see if I can unmute you. I mean, I'm unmuting you from my end, but we're not hearing anything from your end. So it might, I'm guessing it's happening, whatever the issue is, it's happening on your end. Okay, it doesn't seem like it's going, that you're going to be able to come through on this one. Let's see. Not happening, but Kenya, I know that you're one of Professor Irisari's students, so I would recommend reaching out to her directly and asking her about clarifying whatever question you might have. And let's see in the chat. Yeah, Kenya, on my part, it's saying that you have to enter in the PIN in order to, and the PIN number is 146. Audio PIN 146, I guess. Let's see. I sent the PIN. Let's see if it'll work now. Hold on. Are you there? Okay. Um, not happening. I've tried it a couple different times. So, like I said, I would reach out to Professor Irisari on the platform and ask her any questions that you might have. And yeah, so we're going to move on from there. So, like I said, if you guys have any questions outside of us speaking right now, you can definitely send either myself or Professor Irisari a message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And we look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a wonderful day.